from a program perspective, it's truly a win-win-win. And the first win is definitely the customer. They save on their bills, they save energy, they still have the same comfort, the same outputs, closely. Maybe a CFL takes a little getting used to, but it provides the same kind of light. But it's definitely a win for the customer. Secondly, it's a win for their public utility because, even though these programs cost us something to do, it is less expensive for us to save that kilowatt hour than to generate it today. It's definitely, if we ever have to build a power plant, it is way less expensive for all of us to save that energy than to build. So from a generation resource perspective, these programs are the best thing. They're through all the unknowns of the industry in the future, with carbon legislation, cap and trade, all of those potential things coming at us, what comes through the fog is definitely energy efficiency. First and foremost, what we're doing here and more of it makes sense for the customer, makes sense for their public utility. Thirdly, the third win is the environment. I mean, it truly is the greenest thing we can be doing as a utility, as an industry, as individuals.
And it's hands-on. That's the nice thing about it. It's something that you don't have to wait for legislation to do. You don't have to wait for the politicians to decide what's going to happen in the future. You can do it right now.
We are doing it now, and we can. And it impacts today and the future.
That brings up a question that we've talked about many times. The customer calls in and says, well, I'm saving all this energy, but you're just going to raise the rates because you're not selling as much, which is a misconception.
Right.
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, from a generation perspective, the majority of customers' power costs relate to their wholesale power bill,
yep,
which is basically us generating energy. Our least expensive option to generate. Instead of generating it, saving it. Some people have termed it the negawatt. It's saving a kilowatt hour instead of generating it. It is by far the least expensive option we have today and going forward. So even though maybe it's an investment today, there is a little increase. In the long run, it is the best so-called power plant we can be building. Instead of building one out of steel, we're virtually building it in our customers' homes, in their facilities, and it is financially the best option for their utility, for them going forward.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. Wholesale power does, and we talked about that, does make up about 65% of our total cost. So if we can save a kilowatt hour there, that's saving us in the long run.
Right. And the good thing, customers that implement efficiency, their bottom line bill will go down. They will use less units. Maybe that cost per unit goes up slightly because of the programs, but the reality is their bottom line bill will be less than it would have been without the efficiency. It's a good thing for them.
And not really figuring in the rates, just the idea that if you use less, it's going to cost less no matter what the rates are.
Right.